as a West Ham fan, you could be forgiven for thinking that we're an absolute basket case of a club. In fact, I often wonder to myself, is it like this at other clubs? That West Ham is such a circus, that it is so bad, that there's so much negativity and so much bad luck and just all that funny stuff that I think, could this happen to us? I heard once that somebody put a curse on West Ham, and I'm not particularly superstitious, you understand, but there's been points during my time supporting the club where I thought, I wonder if that curse thing is true. I guess the answer to the question of whether this stuff happens at other clubs is yes. Could probably find examples where it doesn't. Maybe Aston Villa at the moment, or Brighton, or whatever. But they will have had their periods in the past, be it Aston Villa under Doug Ellis, or maybe Brighton when they were at the old ground that they had, basically at the hockey ground, weren't they? With the council-owned hockey ground and whatnot, with no roof on the stadium. I'm sure they've had their times. And I am aware that because of the internet and because of things like this, because of YouTube, because of social media, you get to hear a lot more about this stuff. But honestly, as a West Ham fan, I think I just look at it sometimes and think, oh my goodness, sort of not again. What am I rambling on about this time? It's actually about some news that broke last night. And I'm going to paraphrase it because I can't remember it precisely, but I think I've got it more or less there. Hammers News ran a story last night basically indicating that Tim Steidten wanted to separate himself from the hiring of Julen Lopetegui. He didn't want his name associated with it. I think that's pretty close to the term that was used. It was incredible, absolutely incredible suggestion, really. Now, let me get this absolutely right. I think a lot of us suspect that Tim Steidten, we've said it on this channel loads and loads of times, that Tim Steidten wanted Ruben Amorim, and that probably David Sullivan wanted Lopetegui. Sullivan eventually won out. My own belief for this is that probably Amorim was a little bit too expensive, a little bit too ambitious. I think he had a big buyout clause, and I just think he got too rich and too expensive. And I think, coupled with the fact that Lopetegui was available, no compensation, so the cheaper option, and I think he interviewed really, really well, that I think that the West Ham went for Sullivan's choice. That's my reading of the situation. But it's something very different between me saying I suspect something and then seeing it written in print as fact. And Hammers News had spoken to somebody called Graham Bailey, a journalist, and Bailey had pretty much said that Tim Steidten had warned. This is the key thing. Tim Steidten warned David Sullivan against appointing Lopetegui. That's really juicy stuff. It really is. And I found the suggestion, incredible, because what it seemed to me is that it was almost as if David Sullivan was being thrown under the bus. It was the director of football at West Ham saying, it's not me, Gov. It's not me. It's him. It's the owner. He did it. It's almost like he was getting, not his excuses in early, but distancing himself early enough from the appointment of Lopetegui, so as when it goes south, he could turn around and he could say, well, I've already explained. Had nothing to do with me. Now, it's important to say none of these quotes are attributed to Tim Steidten. And they may or may not be true. I don't know if Graham Bailey is one of, as a close ally of Tim Steidten. I don't know. What we do know is a lot of West Ham stories appeared, allegedly, over the summer to have come via Tim Steidten, but they were the normal route to press would have been Fabrizio Romano and Florian Plettenberg, right? But all I'm saying is you wouldn't have to convince me very long to say, oh, by the way, Tim Steidten leaked stuff to the press. You wouldn't need to convince me of that. I believe that already. So I didn't immediately disbelieve this theory for two reasons. That, because of the way the press works and the way Steidten allegedly works with the press, but also my own understanding of the situation would mirror that. What I didn't know, the extra information here, is that Steidten warned Sullivan. That's the thing. But the real key thing here is that the information is out at all. because I can't think that makes for a great situation at West Ham with the dynamic of a director of football, owner relationship. What about if Lopetegui, catches wind of this? Maybe if it's true, Lopetegui already knows it. But this is in complete odds with what Steidten himself had said. It was weird, he did an interview, didn't he, before the Chelsea game? I think it was with TNT Sports. Stood there in the place where the managers normally do their post-match interviews, where they have all the advertising, all the stuff, all the sponsors behind them. In any official bit with the microphone and all the rest of it. And I'm not going to pretend that I could remember what he said, but it was pretty much, I helped choose Lopetegui, or Lopetegui's the best guy. That could be as inaccurate as you like. My point, the vibe of it was that it was positive, and there was certainly, you didn't see Steidten separating himself from Lopetegui. That certainly didn't happen at all. And it's probably worth pointing out now that in response to that, a high-placed source at the club spoke with Sean Whetstone this morning and said this is not true. So the club very much say that actually it was unanimous. It was a unanimous decision to appoint Lopetegui, and Steidten was present throughout all of it. So, I mean, it brings a couple of things into question there. I believe a lot of that, by the way, as well. I believe Steidten was present in the interviewing process. I really do. I still suspect that Steidten would have preferred somebody else. And this was very much said in some of the comments that were attributed to this Bailey character, which was that Steidten wanted to maybe change the ethos, change the style, a different style of football to David Moyes, which by saying that implies that Lopetegui has the same style of David Moyes, which I just think this stuff's really, really juicy. Before I continue with that, can I just point you in the direction of today's sponsor, Manscaped. I normally say in these videos that I can't show you the beard trimmer because it's upstairs and I use it all the time. I've actually brought it down YouTube, especially for you guys. I've changed the camera because it's normally quite dark, the normal camera I use, and I've brought my beard trimmer down because I wanted you to see it because I talk about it quite a lot. This is the beard trimmer, and I don't know if you can see, there's basically numbers on the back there. You can roll this up and down, and what this does, if you look here, it will raise the top bit. Can you see that raising up? So basically, look, you can see that. It's a lot higher there, raise it down, it's lower. So that goes from 0.5 up to 10. It goes up to 10. The reason you do that is basically you can adjust the depth of which you want your beard or your moustache or anything else. This is an amazing bit of kit. This beard trimmer is by far and away the best beard trimmer you can buy. I swear by it. I use it all the time. Rather than those other things where you're constantly taking nozzles off, this one nozzle does it all, literally. Say if you want to do this at a number 2 and your moustache at a number 5, I've given away my secret, then this really is the tool for you. Manscaped are absolutely brilliant. It doesn't matter whether it's this or this thing here, which is the weed whacker. You stick that up your hooter, by the way, and it gets rid of your nostril hair. Or indeed the Lawnmower 5.0. Whatever Manscaped do is just top quality stuff. The great thing is we're going to give you 20% off of all their products plus free shipping. All you got to do is go onto the website. You can use the link below or you can just Google it. That doesn't matter. What is important is you put in your code to get 20% off. The discount code, it'll ask you to put it in. It'll say, do you have a discount code? You say, yes, I do. I'll tell you what it is. Hammers Chat Pubes, all one word, no spaces in between. It doesn't matter whether you want a beard trimmer, a pube trimmer, a nostril hair trimmer, anything you want to trim, plus some ointments, plus some aftershave, plus some boxer shorts. It's all in the description below. Click on that. Go and check it out. Manscaped, absolutely great products. Right, let's get back to what we were talking about here with, I think with the way that the club might respond to what's being said here. Look, Steidten has to separate himself from it. What we've got really clear is the club at the moment saying, well, this isn't true. Now, it may well be that Steidten's angry about this. It may well be that he has not leaked this information at all. And if he hasn't, I think he needs to come out. He's already shown that he's happy to speak to the press, both privately and publicly. He did the public bit the other day when he spoke to TNT Sports. Because this is not good. Cast your mind back not very far to last season, tail end of last season. David Moyes, allegedly, again, the club came up and were firefighting this stuff. But this is what I believe to be the case, certainly, that David Moyes banned Tim Steidten from the dressing room and from the training ground because he thought there was a conflict of interests. He didn't think that Steidten was pulling in the same direction as him. Now, I would support David Moyes' right to do that. He is in charge of football. But I also would defend Tim Steidten's right, bearing in mind he knows the manager's going to leave at the end of the season, to try and recruit a new one. That's absolutely fine. And I think he should do that. If it transpires that actually what Tim Steidten's coming down here is doing is undermining the current manager, then we've probably got a little bit of form brewing here, and we've got a really unhealthy situation, which is bad for West Ham. Really, really bad. Look, I would have preferred Ruben Amorim. Lopetegui wasn't my choice. Go back and watch previous videos. If you're new to the channel, go back and watch it. If you've been watching the channel for any length of time, you'll know that I'm telling you the truth. But even though that's the case, I still don't really want to see the director of football undermining the chairman, because I think it's bad for the club. I think now's not the time to do it. I think the time to do it was back then. The time to do it was when it looked like Sullivan was about to pull the trigger on Lopetegui. That's when your director of football you have to turn around and say, no, Mr. Chairman, this is the wrong move. Yeah, that's the difference between a hunch and the courage of your convictions. No, this is the wrong move. We must move in a different direction. It's all right being cocksure after the event. You can do that, but you better make sure you got it right before. You better make sure you predicted this stuff, because otherwise it just sounds like you're just trying to distance yourself from everything else that's happened. At the end of the day, football's a team sport. You want the club to be acting collectively. For too long, there's been too much separation. There's been too much fragmentation at the club. And you want to see a unified management. You want to see a unified team. You want to see a unified fan base. You really do. It starts from the top in that sense. For too long at West Ham, there's been the argument, who signed that player? Was that Sullivan or a Moyes signing? Was that a Sullivan or a Pellegrini signing? Was that signing agent-led? And it was, sorry, but I should turn that off already. It's not good enough. Now we're into the realms of who signed the manager? And it brings on a blame game, and it's incredibly unhealthy for the club.